heights. This is by far one of the spots that I have been trying to get to for a while. I come from the Northern Arapaho and Haudenosaunee nations. Haudenosaunee is actually the Seneca Nation from western New York. And the Northern Arapaho is from Denver area, but we are there no longer. We were there for hundreds and hundreds, even 1,000 years, until the government relocated us onto a reservation only about 150 years ago. I do have ties to the Pueblo people that live here. My family has worked with them and traded with them for a few thousand years that we know of. So these are my cousins. So as we come through here and I look at what my cousins have done, it makes me proud. And I want to share their story with you before we go and explore the rest of this area. So first of all, I want to put a word into your mind. And that word is community. Community. It takes a community to be able to build this magnificent feat of architecture. It couldn't have been done in just one day. It couldn't have been done by one family. It had to have been multiple families. So if you take a second to look at some of these walls, you can see some of the plaster or the different colors that are covering it. A community. It could be as simple as cooking or grinding corn. It could be a farmer. It could be a painter. It could be a mason. It could be young kids that are hand chiseling rocks to make bricks to fit into these walls. It took a whole lot of people to make this area. What I always am amazed by every time I come down here is this rock to your left. Look, they put a tower on that rock, and then below it they added bricks and mortar and other things. It was a labor of love, is what it was. It was also a labor of survival. But I'm not going to talk about survival in that aspect of being that stressful, because this was a very developed community. My Puebloan cousins were comfortable. They had their needs met. They had food, corn, beans, squash, and potatoes. They were able to hunt animals such as elk or deer or rabbit. They were able to grind corn and make bread all throughout here. They were able to smooth the stones and make these beautiful towers with windows that they could all live in and sleep in. Now when you look at these rooms are tiny. They are not big at all. It's just enough to sleep in or store something in. The majority of the living would have been done out here. Now there's a few reasons why the Puebloans decided to move into these alcoves. Can anyone give me some reasons why you would want to move in here? Defense? Out of weather, yes. It's easier.
Water?
So, it's water, yep. All of these answers are correct. Now what I do want to let you know is it was a peaceful time when my Pueblo cousins were living here. There was not warfare happening. Contrary to popular belief, the cliff dwellings were not put in because of warring tribes. Sure, you may have had that crazy uncle that wreaked havoc on your family. Sure, there's horrible people in every group, and they sometimes come out and do horrible things. But in general, this was not one of those places. Who's been to the museum? Awesome. If you haven't, I highly encourage you to go check out some of the pottery that's in there. By the time that we come into here, it's considered the Pueblo III dynamic. They had been here for 700 years, and in year 600 is when they decided to move into these alcoves. That's 600 years of living on top of the Mesa and Cuestas. The last 100 years is when they lived here. Now, on top of that, their pottery has beautiful and intricate designs that you can check out. They also had cotton and salt and let's see what else, and corn. They had become farmers. Where did they get all of these items? Because cotton doesn't grow here and there's no salt mines. Where did they come from? They traded. So I specialize in indigenous identity and the trade route. And so if you have a bubble and the Puebloan people are living right here, then south of us in South America you have the native people there that were bringing things like cotton and corn and giving it to their Pueblo brothers, where they taught them how to grow, and that allowed them to thrive. Community. They farmed together, they lived together, they cried together, Now, let me also let you know this. People ask me, Rising Buffalo, what about the kids? It seems like it would be a dangerous environment for kids. Well, life is dangerous in itself. We have some horrible things happening in the world, and they had their own horrible things that were happening in their world. In the form of, they had high infant mortality rate. A lot of kids did not survive. Along with that was childbirth. Also, women did not survive a lot of this. So the kids that did survive and the women that did survive, you're going to hold close to your heart. You're going to hold them in these rooms and make sure that they are safe, because they are your future. Now, as far as heights, I sincerely believe that if you survive childbirth and if you survive infancy, they're going to make sure you're not going to do anything dangerous to fall off one of these cliffs and hurt yourself. If you hurt yourself, that could be a death sentence. A cut could get infected. A broken arm could prevent you from being able to live a fulfilling life. Luckily, today we have Western medicine that allows us to be able to heal and go back to our families. When you have each other, and that's all you have in these communities, this is your hospital, this is your kitchen, this is your community center, this is your burial area. You know, you hold to your community to help support you. And that's exactly what was happening here. For me, I would picture myself wanting to paint those walls over there. You know, I would love to paint some designs. You have beautiful pottery, you have beautiful cotton clothing that they're dyeing in different colors and weaving themselves. Well, if you have beautiful pottery and you have beautiful clothing, you're going to probably have a beautiful home. With that said, these walls would have been covered in plaster. You wouldn't see the bricks. You might see a little bit imprint of them, but these would be covered. You can see red and whitish color stripes on that building over there. You can see white on that little outcropping up there. You have the inside of the walls and the outside of the walls to paint however you like. You're an artist. You go and paint symbols, petroglyphs, symbols, mountains, triangles, geometric shapes, pictures of your family, pictures of food running. You know, you are going to have your community here, and it is beautiful. Now, as you look in this area, people ask me, Rising Buffalo, how many people actually lived in these sites? Well, that's a really hard thing to pinpoint. But when you consider that most of the rooms were not lived in, you're going to probably have less than half that have humans living in them. As you walk through and explore Mesa Verde National Park, what's one way you can tell if a room has been lived in?
Fire.
Fire. Soot. Ash. You look up on the ceilings up here, you see a lot of soot. This building went higher. They had a fire in there. Now that the walls are gone, we can see evidence of their life right there. As you walk over here, at that far end over there, in the tower on the rock wall, you also see soot, and you also see ash. That's where someone slept from being tired. That's where someone cried. That's where someone laughed. I would estimate anywhere from this size to a little less, is what I would say. But really, we don't know because we were not there. We have speculation, and we have great insight, but we really don't know. In here in about 3 minutes, we're going to actually make our way over towards that set of trees on the other end. If you want to stop and take pictures, I encourage you to. When I start kind of motioning you over, though, I need you to walk a little quicker. It's going to be 10 degrees hotter feeling down here than it was up there. So just be ready for that. Please keep sipping water if you have it. Once we gather there, then I want to do a talk in the shade, and then we can go explore the kiva. Now, things I want to point out to you are this. Look at the walls. Sometimes you can see fingerprints in that mud. Sometimes you can go up and see how enormous those walls are. 40 feet. I mean, it doesn't look that high here, but when we're down there in that blazing sun, don't forget to look up. Don't forget to look around. And with that said, we actually have a lot of different homes that are here too. This community was not an isolated community. There were people everywhere. If you couldn't live in one of these cliff dwellings, you lived on top. If you didn't live here, you might have lived in another alcove around the corner. So, yeah. So with that said, let's go ahead and get up and get ready and walk around.